Hey there, it's Perry with PapercraftingThreads. Thanks for joining me. Today, I have a fun little card, what I'm calling a push and pop card. So let's get started. Starting with my scraps of basic white here and dies from the Sweet Bugs dies. I'm actually not using any of the bugs today. I am using the toadstools and a few of the other dies. So I should give those a die cut. So once I finish die cutting, I pop the die cuts back into the negative space. I'm doing it this way because I want my color to be in certain spots. Colors I'm using are Peach Pie, Calypso Coral, Lemon Lolly, and Lemon Lime Twist. So starting with my Peach Pie and a blending brush, picking up some ink and adding it to my toadstools. And I want the caps to be darker than the stems. Something like that for the caps. And then just a light blush on the stems. I'm also going to remove this section. Which I would have done earlier, but I forgot. Now that I have my mushrooms done, I'm taking a water brush and making sure it's quite juicy. So I'm actually squeezing it and getting loads of water on this brush. And then I'm going to tap it onto my mushrooms. Add a little bit more water. And that's going to add some speckles where that water hits. And let that dry. And then to these little critters, I'm using Calypso Coral. And I want these fairly dark. And then these images, I want this flower to be Lemon Lolly, but I don't want it to be solid. So I'm starting kind of near the base because that's where I want the color concentrated. And then I want the leaves and this other foliage here to be Lemon Lime Twist. And these I want to be fairly solid, or at least have a lot of color on there. And I like that the edges will be a little bit darker as well. Which again is why I'm doing it after die cutting instead of laying down color ahead of time. Bringing back my mushrooms again, because those are mostly dry. I have a dark Timid Tiger Stampin' Blend, and I have the brush tip, and aiming it down at my mushrooms, kind of horizontal, hitting it with my bone folder. I want to get speckles on the mushrooms. And hopefully you can see those speckles on there as well as the spots from the water. Okay, and now on to cutting the base. I have a piece of crumb cake cardstock that measures 5.5 by 8.5. And I'm going to score the short side at 3/4 of an inch, 2 3/4 inches, and 4 3/4 inches. Then I'm turning it this way and cutting it in half at 4 1/4. I have another piece of crumb cake cardstock that measures 1 1/4 inches by 3 inches, and I'm scoring it at 1/2 inch, and 1 inch. Flipping it 180 degrees and again scoring at 1/2 inch and 1 inch. So these two pieces are identical and so is the scoring. So we're going to fold the middle score line as a mountain fold. And these two side score lines are going to be valley folds. So it looks something like a tent. So mountain fold, valley, valley. I'm going to pick one of these to be the back of the card. And I have two pieces of basic white that measure 1 3/4 by 4 inches each. So applying Stamp and Seal. I have 4 pieces of Country Woods Designer Series paper. Each one is cut to 1/2 inch by 4 inch. And this is the back of my card. For the front of the card, applying these. And then I have 2 more pieces of the Country Woods paper, and these measure 1 3/4 by 4 inches. So the back side of the card is going face down, and the front is being adhered to here. So I'm going to use a really strong glue and lining this up. And also with the glue, I have wiggle room. And same thing on this side. Then my mechanism that I scored, I'm going to fold as valley, mountain, mountain, valley. And you end up with this little spring-like piece that actually will spring like that. Taking one of the little feet, adding adhesive to the bottom, And on the front of the card, lining this up in the middle next to the score line. Like that. Then adding glue to this other bottom. And folding this back down so that it straddles this score line. And you have something that looks like that. Next, I have the hexagon punch. And I have another piece of that Country Woods paper. And I'm going to punch out a hexagon. I'm going to get my wood grain straight. And I have a scrap of early espresso that's about 3/4 of an inch by 2 inches. I have my embossing buddy. My Versamark ink. And white embossing powder. And warm up my heat tool and melt this. And then I can snip this down. And dust off some of that embossing. And then to assemble the rest of my card, add adhesive here. And a large mushroom. I'm cutting up a tiny little portion of some mini dimensionals. And putting that right here. Remove the backing. Adding some glue down here. And then having this pop up off that mechanism like that. And then the small mushroom, I'm going to actually trim off about 1/4 of an inch from the bottom. Add a mini dimensional to the back of the cap. And again, glue down there. Bits of glue here. Put my flower together. Adding a mini dimensional at the base of the flower. And cutting off that lower leaf. And adding my glue around that vein of the leaf, because otherwise the glue will ooze through that spot. Adding spots of glue. so I can add my foliage. My snail. And butterfly. Adding dimensionals to the back. My greeting. There. And then just glue to my mushroom or toadstool. And a dot of glue down here. And one up here. So there's the back of the card, so you can write a personal message. And the front of the card. In the front of the card, I'll add some iridescent gems. One in here. And one up here. And I'm going to tuck one behind here. And there you have it, a push and pop card. Folds flat for mailing and pops up for display.
Find written instructions over on my blog at. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, share, and thanks for watching. Bye!